All right, so welcome to Gun Talk Live. Tonight we're going to talk about something that affects every single one of us, protecting our home and the people inside it. The truth is, emergencies don't schedule appointments, and help doesn't always arrive when we want it to. When second count, help is always minutes away. Home defense isn't about fear, it's about preparation. It's about knowing how to reduce risks, understanding your legal responsibilities, and being ready to make smart decisions under stress. Whether you live in an apartment, a suburban neighborhood, or out in the country, the core principles of home defense remain the same. Prevention comes first, awareness buys time, and training makes a difference when seconds count. Tonight, we're going to break down what home defense really means, from legal realities to securing your home to training the right way so you can make informed, responsible decisions to protect what matters most. Finally, if you find value in tonight's discussion, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our pages so you don't miss out on future Gun Talk live sessions. With that, let's get started. Before we continue, we want to thank everyone who likes, follows, and supports our pages. We truly appreciate you being part of this community, and because of that support, we also want to recognize the companies that stand behind education, safety, and responsible self-defense. One of those partners is Munio. Munio is a discreet self-defense keychain designed to go almost anywhere. Concerts, sporting events, schools, and even on airplanes. It's TSA approved. It's small, lightweight, and easy to carry, making it a practical personal safety option. It's simple to use. You hold it naturally in your hand, and if needed, you can strike or whip with your keys. Where Munio really stands out is in close quarter contact situations, including being grabbed from behind, where other tools may not be effective. As a bonus for our audience, you can use the code Viking6 for 15% off your purchase. We also want to recognize USCCA, our partner in education and responsible self-defense. The only part of the equation. Training, legal knowledge, and having the right support afterwards are just as important. So once again, thank you for supporting our pages and our partners who help make these conversations possible. When we talk about home defense, we're really talking about a system, one that starts long before a threat ever reaches your front door. That first layer of that system is home security. Home security isn't just about gadgets, it's about deterrence, alarm systems, cameras, and monitoring services that can alert you early and make your home a harder target. Security alone isn't enough. If something does happen, you need a plan. Defensive planning means thinking through different scenarios ahead of time. What if there's an intrusion? What if there's a fire? Where do you go and what do you do? The final layer of firearm safety and usage. Firearms are serious tools and they must be handled responsibly. That starts with safe storage and moves on to choosing the right firearm. Home defense isn't about fear. It's about preparation, prevention, and having a plan. When you combine security, planning, and responsible training, you're not just reacting, you're taking control. Before we dive deeper into tonight's training, I want to take a moment to introduce the instructors who will be guiding us in this conversation. First, I'm proud to introduce our guest, Brian Bowen, founder and lead instructor of Firearms Safety First, LLC. Brian brings a powerful combination of experience and passion to the world of self-defense education. He's a USCCA certified firearms instructor, defensive pistol instructor, range safety officer, and a Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania qualified handgun instructor. What truly sets Brian apart, though, is his background as a medic. His approach to training is rooted in prevention, readiness, and real-world safety. He understands firsthand what happens when people aren't prepared, and more importantly, what's possible when they are. Brian leads multi-state training outreach and is currently expanding operations in San Antonio, Texas, alongside his family partners. Next, I'd like to introduce Gary Fugino, owner and lead instructor of the Warrior Within, based in Idaho. Gary is a lifelong student of martial arts with over 40 years of experience across multiple disciplines. His training includes Aikido, Hapkido, Filipino martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jeet Kune Do, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His background spans every range of combat, kicking, punching, trapping, and grappling, as well as empty hand techniques, bladed weapons, impact weapons, and flexible weapons. Gary has also studied firearms since his 20s, with extensive experience in tactical rifle and pistol shooting. He is a concealed carry holder and a certified instructor. What truly sets Gary apart is his professional background in physical therapy, specifically neurorehabilitation. This gives him a deep understanding of neuroscience, visualization, programming, and repetition, how the brain and body learn new skills. His emphasis on building fundamentals safely and progressively allows for rapid development while reducing risk. He also specializes in adapting techniques for individuals with physical limitations or disabilities, helping ensure that self-defense is accessible to everyone. And for those who may be joining us for the first time, my name is George Rodriguez, founder of Viking 6 Tactical. I'm a 20-year combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan and spent 22 years with the Vermont State Police, serving as an instructor, investigator, and patrol officer. Today, my focus is helping everyday citizens train with purpose, whether that's defensive shooting, preparedness, stop the bleed, or home defense planning. My mission is to make sure your level of training is something you can rely on when it matters most. So tonight, you're getting 3 different perspectives, 3 instructors from different backgrounds, but with the same goal, empowering you to stay safe, stay aware, and stay prepared. Purpose of tonight's discussion is to help you strengthen your home defense readiness in a practical, realistic way. By the end of this discussion, our goal is to walk away with a clear understanding of your options, a more practical home defense plan, and improve confidence in your ability to protect your home and communicate effectively during an emergency. What this is not is tactical training. We're not teaching room clearing techniques, SWAT style movement, or how to go looking for a threat inside your home. Our focus is on prevention, planning, and safe decision making. This is also not legal advice. Laws vary state by state, and individual situations matter. We'll discuss general legal principles and considerations, but this conversation does not replace advice from a qualified attorney who understands your local laws. This discussion is not a substitute for required certification or formal training. Whether it's firearms training, concealed carry requirements, or other certifications, nothing replaces hands-on instruction from qualified professionals. And finally, this is not a clear your house class. Actively searching your home for a threat is extremely dangerous and often not unnecessary. In most cases, the safer option is to secure a position, protect your family, and let responding professionals handle the situation. What this discussion is about helping you think clearly, plan responsibly, and make safer choices when it comes to protecting your home and the people inside it. So with that, we're going to start with Brian, and he'll start us off.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Brian Doc Bowen with Firearms Safety First, LLC, out of Hampton, Virginia. Tonight, my role is to walk you through practical, realistic home security measures and how to build a simple home defense plan that focuses on safety, preparation, and communication, not fear and not tactics. Everything we're discussing tonight is designed for everyday families and homeowners, and it's about risk reduction and smart planning, not confrontation. So again, this is about preparation and risk reduction, not fear. So let's talk a little bit about home security measures. Lighting, visibility. These are very important things in order to make sure that the bad actor, the perpetrator, the criminal, doesn't feel safe. If someone doesn't feel hidden, they are less likely to act. So lighting is one of the most overlooked and most effective deterrents. Again, as I said, criminals do prefer darkness, concealment, and privacy. When your home is well lit, it removes those advantages. The key areas that you should focus on are entry points like the doors and windows, walkways and driveways, side yards, and rear access areas. Now we know that there are also motion activated lights, which are especially effective because they draw attention and they can also startle the intruder. Again, the intruders, they don't want to have anything there that's going to deter them from robbing your home.
Hey, Brian, maybe you can talk a little bit about different type of lights and colors too.
Oh, I'm quite certain that a lot of people nowadays are seeing the various different colors that they have around their homes. You see the amber lights, they see the blue lights, you see the green lights, you see the bright white lights. You know that there are different types of lighting. They have the I just forgot the word now. The solar panels. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh
Solar
yeah.
panels. Okay. So there are a lot of brand new technology out utilizing solar panels, so you don't have to worry about running up a battery or running down a battery. So those are different types of lightings that you can find, and you can find them in any of your hardware stores, whether you have a Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart. I don't think they have Kmart's any longer, but you
Yeah,
can find them in a lot of your stores, and you can definitely find them on Amazon.
yeah, Amazon's a great place. Hey, just quickly, when I know when I was doing a lot of stuff with the state police, one of the things we would recommend was more of your calming lights for your lights, your exterior lights that you leave on all the time, and your
Hmm.
motion lights being that brilliant white, that almost daylight light. And that way it catches
Hmm.
your neighbor's attention. So when it goes on, people look out the windows, and really
Right.
makes for a good thing. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Hmm.
That's a lot of people will keep all their lights on all the time, and it makes it difficult.
Yes, it does. It definitely does
I
make it
have
difficult.
I have porch lights on the front of my house and in front of the garage door, but around the perimeter of my house, I do have solar lights that come on at with motion detection. So you are lit up if you get anywhere near my house.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think solar lights are great. I what I find down here in Florida is they don't last very long. If we can get a year out of them, the sun destroys those plastic
Mm.
panels. So um, I end up having to do the 12-volt lights around the house, and eventually I'd like to get a battery system so I have a backup battery, but I just find that they just don't last. So for me, it's not worth the investment, but they are great if you're in a place that doesn't have the sun that we have down here.
Well, I guess in that respect, you definitely have to get what works for you in wherever in the country you happen to reside in. Up here, up north here in Virginia, we can kind of get away with that. Yeah, the sun does get bright, but primarily in the summertime. I know how it is down in Florida, so there's
Yeah,
consistent daylight.
yeah. What we found with the solar lights also is they're great for when you lose power. We bring
Hmm.
our solar lights inside at night, and we have lights inside the house every night, every morning. Put them outside, and they charge back up. So it's also a good preparedness tool besides being a security measure.
Hmm. One thing too, let's not forget the fact about landscape also really matters. Overgrown bushes and tall shrubs and clutter near your doors or windows, they also too create hiding places. So you want to keep your landscaping trimmed, I'm sorry, trimmed to improve visibility and reduce blind spots. That's just one of the other things that we can do. So,
Yeah.
and we also know that, physical barriers that we happen to have, unless somebody else has something else to add on to about the lighting. Gary?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. Well, the other part now will be physical barriers, your doors, your locks, your windows, and your fencing. Physical barriers, as we know, they do slow people down, and slowing someone down buys you time. Doors should be solid core or reinforced. Locks should be properly installed, not just decorative. I will make this comment about doors since we had kind of talked about this among ourselves before, and depending upon what part of the country you live in, you may not have solid doors, front entranceways. You may happen to have glass doors, uh, stained glass doors, maybe just sliding doors. So you may not happen to have actual solid core reinforced doors. And I'll talk a little bit in a second about some of the different materials that you can purchase to put on those glass doors to help make them a little less shatterproof or make them shatterproof, just to say. So your windows should definitely be locked properly and it should be visible from the inside of the home. You should have coverings that allow you to see what's let you see out without being seen in. That also can be kind of difficult, again, depending upon the type of windows you own. Your fencing and gates don't make your home impenetrable, but they do control access points. They also can create a psychological deterrence, and they can also force someone to commit more effort into breaking into your home, which increases the chance that they might decide to walk away. Which barriers don't stop everything, but they can buy you time.
Brian,
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about what buying time means?
Sure, buying time is when you are involved or you're in getting into a self-defense situation. Seconds buy you time. Seconds buy you options. So if you plan ahead, you just bought yourself a few seconds that might be able to deter someone from either breaking into your home or robbing you wherever you happen to be. So some of those things buying seconds is not just on home deterrence, as we're talking about today, on home security measures. This is an everyday way of life that we have to plan ahead. We have to use what I like to call what if thinking. And if you play those little mind games, those mental games about what could possibly happen, and you begin to make some plans when something is to occur that may happen to fit one of those what if mental games that you played, you're less likely to be caught off guard. You're going to react instinctively. And those, again, those instincts will again buy you time.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question there, Gary?
I think I was kind of alluding more towards what does buy time mean? Buy time means you can get to a room and lock yourself in there. You can grab
Oh,
your
yeah, well,
phone, you can grab your gun in case you need to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So, but I know I understand what you were saying about what the kinds of things buy you time, which is good, like the physical barriers, things like that. But
I was going to get into that in a couple of seconds.
oh,
No,
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's okay.
One of the things you mentioned, Brian, was windows. So that people can't see in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tricks that we used to use was when you have blinds. If your
Mm-hmm.
blinds are facing up, which you can turn them in so they're facing down or facing up, someone can't look into your house and see down into your belongings, right? So if you have them facing up, all they're going to see is the blind behind them.
Right.
So having them, that's a great way to keep people from seeing your house and closing your blinds, um, before you leave, so that no one can see
Mm-hmm.
what you have, all your toys.
Yeah, that is very true. It's one of the things. Again, some of this is common sense,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to. I don't want to really go off topic too far, but it just made me think about the color code of awareness. And again, all these things all play intertwine when we're talking about personal and home defense. If you happen to live your life thinking that, well, it's never happened to me before, so why should I worry about it type of mentality, that's when you get caught off guard. So right away, you have not bought yourself any time because you never really thought that this thing could really happen to you. I can't say too much more about it, and that's
Yeah.
it. Okay.
And you're talking about, building time, um, locks on doors. People don't lock their door. 70% of burglaries occur through an unlocked front door or side door.
Mm-hmm.
So
Most
just
definitely.
turning that quick lock, and when you're buying, another thing about buying time is if it takes the criminal too long to get into your house, they're going to go somewhere else. They don't want to sit
Yeah.
outside kicking your door so the neighbors can see them. So if they can get that one kick and get in, that's what they want. Um, I will tell you one of the easiest ways to get into a house is through the garage, and most people leave their car doors open, and they leave their inside their cars. They have their garage door opener. So if your
Mm-hmm.
garage door is open, I can open up your door and hit that garage door opener. I get in there, I close that garage door. I have all the time in the world to break into your house. So moving that garage door open and keeping your car doors locked are really important to keep your home secure.
Right. And one of the other things too are security systems. Do you know that on average, approximately 60% of people who have home security systems don't use them? I know that's kind of crazy, right? 60% of people who have home security systems, they don't even put them on. They don't put them on when they're at home before they go to bed. They don't put them on when they're ready to leave the house or what have you. And some of their reasons are because they say, well, I have pets that roam around the house at night, or why should I put my alarm system on and I'm walking around the house? Well, most of these modern day alarm systems, they have home away or homestay features to it. So homestay allows you to be able to still walk around your house comfortably, but your alarm system is still activated. So in case someone's to try to bust down your door or break a window, then the alarm system then will go off. So again, this is all about detection. And detection again gives you options, and those options do help to keep people safe.
I'm a big fan of like the ring and blink systems where you get
Mm-hmm.
alerted. I can tell you as a police officer, we had priorities for responses, and alarms were very low. Home alarms are very low because there's so many false alarms. Um, and sometimes I think people are in a false sense where they think, well, if I have a alarm system, if the security company calls, the police are responding. Usually, it's a very low priority response compared to if I call up and say, hey, I'm watching someone kicking in my door on my blink right now. Every police officer in the county is headed your way, right there with
Mm-hmm.
lights and sirens, compared to if an alarm company calls and says, we have an intrusion at this residence, they're gonna be like, all right, we'll be there in an hour. So big fan of those personal monitor where you can monitor your own system. I think those things are great. And then, making sure that those front doors and in back doors, sliding doors, those are all secure. They have to be secured. It's like, long screws, door sleeves, door jamb armor, all great things to keep people out of your house.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. You know, excuse
I
me.
have, but besides the automated motion detector lights that I have around the perimeter of my home, I have cameras mounted too, and it's on an Arlo system, which basically just continually records for 30 days, and it just records over itself. But you have the last 30 days, and well, it doesn't stop anybody from doing anything. It might deter somebody in the fact that they're being filmed, and maybe they might want to decide to pick somebody else's house that doesn't have cameras. So,
Right. You're absolutely correct. Cameras don't stop crime by themselves, but they can change behavior. They can also provide evidence, and they could help law enforcement after an incident. So you can always download your videos so that law enforcement take a look at it and see who the perpetrators may happen to be.
Yeah.
So that's a
Unfortunately, what it
really good
comes
point there,
down
Gary.
to, yeah, like what it comes down, we can't live in Fort Knox. And,
No.
if someone wants to get into our house, they're going to get into our house. The idea is to make them go to someone else's house, right? To make it
Mm-hmm.
look tough enough and too hard of a target to go somewhere else. So even if you have fake cameras, right? You have fake cameras, it looks like you have a really good security system. That's going to make someone think twice. Criminals don't want to get caught. So, all these things, there's no one good solution, but you start adding things together and it makes your house harder to become a target. So you're hardening your house, hardening yourself when you're going out. So it's just all good things. But
Yeah.
well, I think we should probably move on to the next subject. And that's going to be Gary. Have you? We're going to talk about defense strategies and planning, and we'll all talk about this too.
okay. So I have four areas I'm going to talk about, which is creating the home defense plan, a safe or panic room, communication, and finally planning and training. So the key word in home defense plan is having a plan, because failing to plan is planning to fail. We have to make a plan, and that's kind of what this whole talk is about, is figuring out what your needs are for your defense plan and executing that. So what do we need to defend against? Well, obviously, since we're at Gun Talk Live, we're talking about defense against violence, and that can either be home intrusion, somebody walking in trying to steal stuff from us, or maybe do us even worse. Could be civil unrest. And so, from a defensive position, um, we need to be able to have the tools at our ready, as well as the prevention, like Brian talked about, in place for our needs. We also have shelter in place events, which could be severe weather, power outages, natural disasters, pandemics, things like that, and defend against fire, home fires, wildfires, and gas leaks. So a gas leak could lead to an explosion. And then there are events and scenarios specific to your location. So George down in Florida, he's got to worry about hurricanes and severe storms. Whereas maybe you're in California, you got to deal with earthquakes. So you have to think about those things. And a few places to look is ready.gov, which is the government agency where you can find information on planning for different emergencies. They don't really talk about defense from violence, but they do talk about all the other kind of scenarios I mentioned. And then the other one I would suggest you look into is the LDS, or the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. They are really good about planning for disasters and planning for self-sustenance in different scenarios. So yeah, that's a great resource.
Gary,
Yeah.
talking about, before we get off into the safe rooms, the one thing I see a lot, especially when I start teaching a lot of classes, is someone will have a plan. They'll be like, yeah, we're going to do this, but they're the only person who knows the plan, right? They haven't discussed it with their significant other. They haven't talked to their kids about this. And, you having a plan and knowing it is really not a plan, right? It's just in your mind, you've done what you do, but you have to actually discuss this with everyone involved, everyone in your home, and make sure they all know, because, as an example, I had a children's safety class, and they had a fire plan to get out of their house, and the father went through it, and he's like, they all know it. And the, 4 or 5-year-old kid said, well, I can't get on my window because I can't break the screen. I don't want to get in trouble. And they never talked that, hey, if there's a fire, break the screen. It's not a big deal. And until we actually went through and they said, and they brought that up, the father never realized that that was a big barrier. And once he said, no, you break the screen, it's not a big deal. He's like, oh, okay. Now he understood the plan. So
Right.
even understanding the planning, having them get some input from your family members, it's going to make for a better plan. I mean, what do you think, Brian?
Yes, you're definitely correct. Again, this comes down to being prepared, not paranoid, anticipating the inevitable or inevitable. Goes
And
back
I
to
would,
that what if thinking. Go ahead,
sorry,
Gary. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, it's not just the planning. It's not just even letting everyone else know the plan, but it's also practicing the plan. So in that case of that dad whose son didn't realize that he wouldn't get in trouble for breaking the screen, I would say get a screen that he can practice breaking out of.
Yeah.
And just get an old screen that he can put up, and he can knock it out with his whatever he has in his room, so that he can actually practice the motion, move out of the house, and then meet at his safe spot or meeting spot outside in case there's a fire or something like that.
Yeah.
So
actually
practicing the plan, I think, is just as important.
Yeah. One of the things we had, because I mean, you can't plan for everything, right? And you can't practice for everything because that's all you're going to be doing. That starts into that paranoid thing. Is in the military, we had these risk assessment plans, right? And we would take all the risk. So we could say fire, we could say earthquake, we could say tornado, we could have all these things down as risk. And then we prioritize them, which is most likely to occur. Where you're at, you may be looking at, tornadoes or, something, right? And where I'm at, it could be hurricanes and, wildfires. And where Brian's at, it could be civil unrest. That may be the biggest thing because he's
Hurricanes too.
yeah, hurricanes hit him too. But you build that risk assessment and you look at this is what's most likely going to happen, and that's where you work your plan on, and you pick 3 or 4 of them, and really everything is pretty much the same, like what you're going to do. But if you really focus on something that's probably going to happen, people are going to take it a lot more serious, right? So if I plan for the zombies, probably no one in my family is going to really, really take that, seriously, right? But if I say, hey, listen, we have hurricanes, we lose power. Let's plan what we're going to do if there's a hurricane and the windows blow out, and and everything.
Hmm.
And when we go to that, they're more likely to plan for that and have more of a buy-in. And that's I think the hardest part is getting a buy-in. We usually have one person in a family that's all gung ho for this, right? And then the other people, the rest of them, they're like, this is, yeah, we're wasting money on all this other stuff. But you get them bought it, you buy them, they buy into that whole process, and they see the value, and then all of a sudden now they're coming up with ideas, and they're saying, hey, we should practice on this, and you get your whole family
Hmm.
involved that way too.
I kind of look at it like this. We've all been to school, and in most schools, at least when I was growing up, we had fire drills. Now we have fire drills, and we unfortunately happen to have active shooter drills, unfortunately,
Mhm.
nowadays. We didn't have that when I was growing up. But because of the fact you're practicing, if a situation was to arise, you already know what you need to do. You don't have to panic, or you shouldn't have to panic, which is also, I think, Gary made a comment about family communication.
We're going to cover that a little bit more in a minute, but since we're talking about planning and training, um, and risk assessment, I think one big giant risk assessment, probably more than a home invasion, is a fire in the home.
Hmm.
And fires are real and they're deadly. And if you don't know, if everyone doesn't know how to use a fire extinguisher when the fire is in an infant stage, they need to practice it. And when I was working in physical therapy, when I was still a therapist, in different facilities I worked in, at least every other year, if not annually, we had a firefighter come in and teach us how to put out a patient that was on fire with a fire blanket or a sheet or anything. And then the other one was how to use a fire extinguisher. And most people would not volunteer, surprisingly, in using the fire extinguisher. I always volunteer because I like putting out fires. I like playing with fires too, but you get the idea. Unless you know how to use it, and every year you see videos around Christmas time of them showing Christmas trees going up or stoves on fire, and people don't know how to use a fire extinguisher.
Yeah,
We
that
have
that
supplies,
yep.
but we really need to know how to use them. We need to train with them, right?
Yep.
So we have smoke detectors, which are kind of idiot proof. They just go off if there's smoke. And we also have those that require practice, which would be like a fire extinguisher. And having fire extinguishers obviously by the stove or a fire blanket, having them in the upstairs, another one downstairs, another one in the garage, anywhere it could happen. I think it's important to have. You were going to say, George?
Yeah, so I was on a clan lab team, so we did a lot of meth labs, and we used to carry this thing called coal fire on us, and it's extinguisher. They really have no expiration date, so they're great, but they will put out any type of fire. I think
Hmm.
those I keep one in my car. I keep them in the home. They're made to put out lithium battery fires, so they really suffocate that fire, and they'll put out pretty much any type of fire. So those are great things, and and that's what people have to think about. They gotta have that risk assessment. What's our biggest danger? And sometimes someone breaking in, a home invasion is pretty low on that list a lot of times. It's all the
Right.
other things. But if you're planning for a fire, if you're planning for a hurricane, if you're planning for, something that's going to happen, a natural disaster, and you have that plan, all that goes into effect when there's a home invasion. Like you already have something to fall back on. So you have to
Right.
have a plan for something. So it's really, I think it's a really good thing for families to have.
Let's talk about communication.
Do you
So
want to
we
go
have
safe rooms first? So we don't
um
skip that. Just
okay, yeah,
briefly
yeah,
go
yeah.
over it. Yeah, that's
Okay. So a safe or panic room is a secure enclosure that's designed to protect people from either a human threat or natural disasters. The design and the location depends upon the threat and the needs of the occupants. And it can cost anywhere from a few hundred to hundreds of thousands of dollars. It depends on what you want it for. If you if you are serious about defending your home in case of a home invader, I think a safe or panic room is absolutely necessary if you don't own or want to use a firearm. If even if you do have one, it could be a really important thing to have a safe room, which allows you to basically not get caught by a home invader. If you don't have a safe or panic room, and you just have the regular doors and rooms around your house, you have to have at least what I call a fatal funnel, meaning that in order for somebody, an intruder, to come to you, they have to go down a hallway or up a stair or through a door to get to you, meaning you only have to defend one direction and not multiple directions. We did talk about not clearing a house, and the only thing I would say is if your kids live on the other side of the house, and I know families that are like this, the mom and dad's master bedroom is on one end of the house, and between them and the kids' bedrooms, there's a kitchen, a living room, a dining room, and then on the other side of the home are the kids' bedrooms. And if something happens, you're going to have to go get those kids or at least check on them. So in that case, you're probably going to have to have some training to figure that out.
Yeah. So for
go
me,
ahead.
for a safe room, I don't have the money to build a real safe room, right? So I have normal doors. They're wood doors. They're not like the hollow ones. But I've taken and put the sleeves over the door handle and a deadbolt on my bedroom door, as well as door jamb armor along the frame. So that would require someone to actually probably kick a hole through that door in order to get in. It's to buy me time, right? So I want to have enough time to throw on body armor, grab my AR, load up some extra magazines, have, Siri start playing Fortunate Son, do all that stuff before I even get to that fight, right? I want as much time as possible. And that's really what the safe room is for a defensive posture is to get buy you time so you can prepare. And if the person does come in, then you have the advantage.
We got to remember too, each situation requires different actions, but the mindset still has to be the same. We're looking to protect life first and property is second. And also in the safe rooms, we know that the safe room doesn't need to be a reinforced bunker for it to be a safe room. Solid doors, good locks, like George mentioned.
And that would probably
First
be
aid
the
supply.
cheapest way to go, is having just a lock secure door and a means for communication and defense.
Yeah.
On the
And
high end, like you said, with that steel plated walls and doors, you can have a panic button that locks down the entire house. You can have ballistic armor, biodefense, air filtration. So you can go the whole 9 yards, but most people don't. They just want to have a place where it has a fatal funnel so that they have to come to you. And on that, I would say communication is really important. And really, the communication is going to depend on the layout of your home.
Well, not just
But
lay out the home. You need to already establish who is going to call 911, whose
yeah,
responsibility that is.
I'm going to cover
You have
that,
to,
Brian. So, when we're talking about family communication, we first have to figure out who's in charge. And whoever's in charge typically is going to be the person with the most training. The general rule is that everyone must follow their instructions without debate. We want to use plain language. So, safe room now. We want to be clear and concise. Fire, get out. Fire, fire. And then in that case, everyone clears the house. And we also need to know the locations of like a safe room in case of home invader, or a rally point for outside. So our rally point was always the mailbox between our neighbor and our house at the street, because you don't want people exiting the backyard and people coming out the front yard and going, oh my God, Timmy's inside still, right? You want everyone to come around the same point so we know that everyone is there. And of course, obviously, if there's a fire, you're not going to sit there and fight the fire. You're going to get everyone out of the house first. and then call 911, and then try and maybe work that fire extinguisher. But getting everyone out first obviously is vital.
So one of the things I have in my, I have a 13-year-old daughter who's still at home. The rest of my kids are all gone, but we still have a baby monitor in my daughter's room. One is I can hear her if she's still up at 12 o'clock and tell her to go to bed because I can hear the movement in the room. But the other thing too is we can talk over it. So it is it's a really quick, go hide, get underneath the bed, do something, go out the window. We can tell her from our bedroom what she needs to do. And we have and it's a cheap, a very affordable way to have a communication within the house. And they have the rechargeable battery, so it's always recharging. So even if power goes out, if the power gets cut to the house, we can still talk to her and say, get out of the house or hide. I'm going to be coming towards you. Get underneath the bed or get in the closet. And, now I'm going to load kid up and I'm going to go get her and grab her and bring her to our room. Right. I can do that stuff. So it's a very low expensive way. And Brian, why don't you talk about like cell phones and like the whole 911 process, because that can be really confusing.
Yeah, that's very true, George. As I was saying earlier about needing to make sure that you instill in your family, you lay out the plans. Who is going to do what in the case of emergency? Who's a secondary? What do we say? We call 911. These are things that have to be laid out way in advance. So, depending upon the age of your children, would dictate also how much information you can pass on to them for them to handle accurately and safely and quickly. There you go.
All right.
And I would say if with when we're communicating with 911, not everybody in the house should be calling 911 at the same time. So the main person or the secondary person, the person in charge of communication, should make that call. And if somebody is in the house and you're not wanting to talk, then just leave the phone off the hook, but let 911. They'll send somebody over in case of when they get a 911 call and the line is open and nobody says anything, they'll actually send somebody. When we're communicating, if we hear a bump in the night, we hear strange noises outside of our door, we might arm ourselves because we're getting prepared, because we've bought ourselves a little bit of time. And we call 911. We don't want to start cussing them out and threatening the person. We want to say, identify yourself. And you have to communicate with the rest of your family or guests that if you yell out, identify yourself, they better identify themselves so that there's not an unintentional homicide, which 40% of shootings in the home are because they weren't identified. And the other thing is, in a low light situation, if it's happened in the middle of the night, you better darn well have a flashlight, either a handheld flashlight or a gun mounted light. And you don't want to point the light at the person. You want to point it at the ceiling or the floor and use kind of the bouncing light. So you're not pointing right at somebody, your firearm.
Big thing is to keep communication simple. Don't make it difficult.
Simple is better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Simple is a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So what we're gonna do now, so we can keep within time, we're going to the last subject, which is going to be, it's important to understand that effective home defense isn't built on a single decision, a single tool, or a single moment. It's built on layers, and we're talking about those layers now. And they start long before the emergency occurs. And when people think about the home defense, they focus on, what happens right when the door gets kicked in. But it really needs to focus on what happens before that. And for me, what I'm going to take a step by step is safe storage options. I am a big proponent of gun safes. I think that's probably one of I like biometric safes, but I like safes that have like 2 or 3 ways to get into them. And I keep one by the bedside. I'm not a fan of placing a firearm inside a drawer or something like that. We've done many drills where someone will reach into their drawer and they got to fish around, try to find the firearm, then try to find the flashlight too. And they're fishing around doing that when the same amount of time, or actually less time, they could have put their finger on top of that gun safe, the bedside gun safe, and it pops open and then they have the firearm. So I really like the firearms. I also like it so that, if someone breaks in and my firearm's at the house, they can't steal it. I don't want to give criminals my firearms. I want to keep them. And then, I have kids. I've got a teenage daughter. She has friends that come over, and I completely trust my teenage daughter. She knows how to handle firearms, but I don't know her friends. So I want to make sure that the firearms are locked up, just in case one of her friends gets curious. And they know I have firearms because they see the stickers on my wall and they see, the big gun safes and all that stuff. It's you know, so what do you guys think about safes? I know a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on them. Some people don't like them, some people do, but we'll start with you, Brian, and tell me what you think about safes.
Safes are beautiful. It depends upon where you happen to live at. If you're living in an apartment, you may not be able to have a large type of safe, but you can have the small travel safes, as George mentioned earlier, the biometric safes. You can have the keyless entry safes, something that you know that you can definitely safeguard your weapon and that you have instant access to, but someone else does not have access to that particular safe. So it all depends upon where you live at, will dictate the type of safe that you own. But if you're going to have one, you need to use it, especially if you have young ones at home.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, here in Virginia, just a couple of days ago, we had a 3-year-old who shot themselves with someone's weapon. And well, that individual whose weapon it was, they're already now arrested on several charges. It's a tragedy because that individual failed to adhere to the fundamental rules of firearm safety and ownership, and that's to safeguard your weapons. So please, by all means, if you have weapons at home and you have small children at home, please safeguard your weapons. If you have to take your weapon off to go to the bathroom, take that weapon with you into the bathroom. Don't leave it out there for your small child to get a hold of. Don't leave inside of a nightstand drawer.
Mhm. That's
If
the
you're going to
first
put it
place people are
inside
going
of
to
there,
look if they break into your house.
as the first place, that because where do most people keep their valuables at? In the bedroom. So of course they're going to look in the bedroom for those type of things. And your children are curious, prying eyes. They want to find what they can find. So teach the children also. I know I learned at the age of 5 about firearm safety from my father, and he let us know very early on, don't touch, not unless I give you permission. But again, it was a different day and time. It was a different day and time. I'll leave it at that.
What about what do you think about gun safes, Gary?
Oh
Which
yeah, gun safes are an absolute necessity. No, I leave my gun out because it's just my wife and I. We're empty nesters. But when the kids are around, they were always under lock and key. Even when I go outside, I have a gun accessible. You talked earlier, George, about your garage is an entry point. When I go do yard work and I have my garage door open, I lock my back door so they can't just walk in. If I'm in the backyard and my garage door opens to the front, they can't just walk in my house. They can walk in the garage. They might take something from the garage, but not going to get in the house.
that's a
But
great point. It's so I don't forget. So all my outdoor locks, they're all the battery locks that lock automatically. So we type in a code and the door opens and unlocks. Um, so our doors, whenever we leave the house, are always locked, which is a great thing because a lot of times you'll be in the backyard and you won't know who shows up in the front yard.
mm-hmm.
So having that option to, that key card, that key code is great, is a great tool to put on your doors. Um, so your door's always locked behind you.
Nice.
Um,
And then as far as safes are concerned, I always have a gun by the bed that's just out, but it does have a trigger guard on it. So in the middle of the night, if you pick it up, your finger accidentally slips on the on the trigger, which mine doesn't, but if somebody else picks it up, my wife, it's safe until you pull that tab off of the trigger, and it has a string on it. So even my guns that are loaded in the safe have those trigger guards on them. And then I have a safe upstairs in case I'm upstairs, safe downstairs, and then the big one is in the garage that has all the firepower. Even I have one in my vehicle too. So if I have to
Yeah.
leave my firearm behind because you go into a federal building or something, you don't want it stolen out of your vehicle.
Yeah. And you know, the furniture that you can buy with the hidden, you know, they're not really safes, but if someone can't find your weapon, they also serve the purpose also. You can buy the concealable furniture for your firearms. Those things are great too. I will say one thing about safes. One of the saddest days was I went it was actually a house fire and it was an arson, so they had a couple of us go. And they were suspecting it was an arson, but the guy had a gun safe and it was in the basement. And we show up and he's like, all my firearms are the gun safe and everything. And he's like, this fit safe is rated to such a huge temperature, you know, they're not damaged. And he opened up the gun safe and there no fire damage at all in the gun safe, except that the interior temperature of the safe reached a certain degree that the ammo cooked off in it and damaged all his rifles. And he had some gorgeous rifles, like some really like so it's something to think about if you do have a big gun safe. Um, Storing your ammunition separately from your firearms because they fire
No
ammunition does
cook
have a
off.
cook-off point. Yeah, and your the interior gun safe, same thing with papers. Don't keep papers, you know, keep them in a separate area so that if they hit that flash point where they're going to catch on fire, it doesn't damage your weapons. So that's my thing on safe. And then we're going to go into probably the most controversial piece of this of tonight is choosing the right firearm. Um, you know, my take on this whole thing, the firearm that you use for home defense should be the firearm that you use the most often, right? Because you're going to wake up at 2, 3 in the morning. You're going to have sleep in your eyes. You're going to be groggy. You're not going to really know what's going on. You're going to be surprised, and you want the tool that you're most familiar with, not the Judge Taurus that you never fired or you fired 3 times in your life, sitting there and you really don't know how to operate, or you know you have a shotgun there because everyone told you to have a shotgun, but you only fire it once a year. You know, if so, I am a proponent of. I don't think there is a right firearm. I think every single person is different. You have to choose what's good for you, and you have to choose something that that will work. Some people may choose not to have a firearm. They may choose to have a baseball bat. They may choose, hey, if I'm Gary, I probably got some fighting sticks and nunchucks in the corner that I can probably take anybody out with, right? You know, so you know, it's what you feel comfortable with, right? And there is, if there was one perfect gun for home defense, everyone would have it, right? And
Mhm.
so there isn't. So it comes down to what's good for you. Um, I always say, you know, I keep a pistol by my bedside. It's my concealed carry pistol, right? Because I'm very familiar with it. I carry it all the time. Um, and that's because, you know, I want that familiarity, right? And but that's not really my home defense weapon because my pistol is there to buy me time to get to my home defense weapon, which is a AR pistol. And I have for my ammunition, I use varmint rounds, which are basically frangibles. So there's less penetration through walls, but it's loud. I'm not a big fan of suppressors. Some people are. But it's really loud because my opinion is if I miss the person, I want them to be like, oh my gosh, that person has a field howitzer in his bedroom. And I just saw he just lit up the whole door, and my neighbor 4 horses down is going to be like, what is going on? There's a war going on in that house, right? So I want it to be loud. I fired many times. I've fired inside a home, in in theater and outside of theater, without hearing protection. Um, with very large weapons, and you get a little bit of ringing, but it's not what Hollywood says it is. It's you can still, you know, explosions are different, but gunfire you can still hear what's going on. I mean, it's going to bother you, but so I'm not big on suppressors for a home defense weapon. I want the shock and awe, and that's my thing. I don't know. I'll start, Brian, what do you think is a good home defense weapon?
As you said, Gary, uh, George, I'm sorry,
That's it.
that the best home defense weapon is what you are comfortable with using. You have to practice.
So what
My
do you use?
EDC,
Yeah.
my EDC is my go-to, plain and simple, and it's with me 24/7.
Yeah.
So that I know exactly how to operate. That's not to say I can't operate any of the other ones I may happen to have or have, but that one there is readily accessible to me. So that's for the first thing I'm going to reach over and grab.
And Gary, what about you? What's yours?
Uh, I'm a Glock guy, so every gun is the same.
Yeah. Uh, I
So
carry a
any of
Glock for
my
the same reason.
Glocks,
Yeah, I'm not a big Glock fan, but they're reliable, and that's the reason why I carry a Glock, because
yeah,
multiple
and the
pistols, same
defensive ammo
magazine.
I have I've shot a lot of through because I cycle it through at least every year. The ammo that's stored in it, I'll shoot it as practice, and I've never had an issue with any of my Glocks shooting the defensive ammo that I use. So I know not only do they operate in the magazines, um, don't cause jams, but they're super reliable, and I know how to operate them blindfolded.
It comes back down to once again, you are going to carry what you're comfortable carrying. You're going to use for your home defense what you're comfortable utilizing for your home defense. But you have to practice,
Yeah.
practice, practice, practice.
And
And make
and
sure
I
you
was
understand and make sure you understand what the laws of the state that you happen to reside in for the use of firearm or use of deadly weapons. All right, you need to understand that.
Yeah. And it really comes down to there is no perfect there's no perfect weapon. There's nothing out there that could be the one weapon that's going to solve all your problems. So it does come down to that training. And I'm not a fan of room clearing, especially for a homeowner. So I really shy away from teaching room clearing techniques. I do it for law enforcement, but for homeowners, I don't want to put them into that mindset that they're going to be clearing rooms. Right? I think that's probably one of the worst things that you can do if someone breaks into your home or something happens, is try to clear that room out. So, you know, when it
Unless you
comes
have family that
yeah,
you
if you
need to
have family,
defend on the other
my
side of
my
the house.
daughter's across the room, and I'm gonna have to go get her, but I'm still not moving to engage target. I'm not doing what I was doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. I have a mission to go grab her and make sure she's safe, and that's it. Because you
Mhm.
don't know where there's one person, there's two people, and where there's two people, there's four people, and
Sure.
you don't know if they're armed. So if I get into a gunfight, everybody knows Colonel Jeff Cooper. He's got a great saying. And he says that if you're in a fair fight, your tactics suck, right? So I want to be in
Mhm.
the most unfair fight as possible. I want to have every single advantage. And you have to train. You have to practice. You have to do dry fire, laser fire. You have to practice in your home. Know those angles. But we're hitting that hour mark. So I want to just go over some key takeaways. So home defense starts long before an emergency. It starts with prevention, planning, and preparation. They reduce risk and give us options when seconds matter. Protection of life should always be our priority. Safe storage is essential. There is no one size fits all solution, right? The right plan that's good for me is not going to be good for everyone else. You need to know the law before you use it. Make sure you know the laws in your home or in your state. Training matters more than equipment. Communication and planning save lives, which also goes into the rehearsals. Avoidance and de-escalation are victories. Preparedness builds confidence, not fear. And really, the last one is home defense is a responsibility, not a mindset or confrontation. It requires restraint, accountability, and respect for the seriousness of any defensive decision. We're responsible for everything that we do. So we're going to be
Can
wrapping
I
things. Oh, yeah, go
can
right
I
ahead.
add one thing?
Yeah.
What one thing you said, George, which is restraint. When I teach firearm classes, we're practicing drawing. we will also practice not shooting, because I think that is important as being able to aim and hit what you're or to hit what you're aiming at. It's important to not fire just because you draw your firearm. You shouldn't feel like I have to shoot this gun.
Yeah, that's
We
100%.
we definitely need to make sure that that everyone understands that preparation doesn't mean that you expect something bad to happen. It just means that you're ready if it does.
Correct.
Yes. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap things up for tonight. First, I want to sincerely thank each of you for taking the time to join us for this month's Gun Talk. Your willingness to learn, ask questions, stay engaged is exactly what keeps this community strong, informed, and well prepared. As we close out, keep an eye out for details on next month's webinar. It's going to be on conflict avoidance and de-escalation tactics. It's going to be Wednesday, February 4th, first Wednesday of the month. And we're going to do a new time for everyone on the Mountain Time in West Coast. We're going to try 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which will put a little bit better time for Mountain and West Coast. If you didn't sign up to view this class live through USCCA, we really appreciate your support by leaving us a 5-star review on Google. Otherwise, you will receive you're going to receive a email from USCCA asking to rate us and how we did. One of the benefits of watching us live is at the end of the show, you can ask questions and we sit here and we answer those questions. We also encourage you to follow and subscribe to Viking 6 Tactical, Firearms Safety First, and The Warrior Within on social media and YouTube. That's where we share our training clips, class updates, and announcements for future webinars. Staying connected helps you stay informed and helps us continue delivering content that's relevant to your personal protection goals. And finally, bring a friend next time. These conversations are stronger when more people are involved, especially those who are new to training or unsure where to start. Your invitation could be what helps someone become safer, more confident, and better prepared. For those of you who join us live, stick around. We're going to open things up for questions and discussions in just a moment. But once again, thank you for being a part of tonight's session and this growing community. Stay safe, stay alert, and we'll see you next time on Gun Talk Live.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody. Stay safe.